Well, Will, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know how to come back from that. But let me just ask you this. When did you first come across Dale Earnhardt?
Humpy Wheeler was instrumental in that as well. And the initial concept was that he called and wanted to know if I'd be willing to be the car owner and the crew chief for the first African-American stock car driver in NASCAR. And, to myself, I'm thinking, can I earn money? And so I said, yes, I would. And he said, well, he's going to help me get a car from Bud Moore. And we were going to have some tests at Charlotte 3 or 4 days later. And we go to test, and Willie T. Ribbs is not going very fast. And I didn't set up the car, but Bud Moore did. And boy, did Bud Moore do us right. We got the right gear, the right motor, the right heads. He did us good. That car was fast. But right then, I didn't have enough time to do everything. But I'd been involved maybe a dozen or so years by then, so I was pretty sure we didn't. I checked what Bud did. He told me what he had. He told me correctly. I saw no reason to change anything, but Willie just wasn't going fast. And Humpy was really getting kind of frustrated. And at one point, he took a napkin and drew the track and said, here's where the Union 76 ball is. Here's where the gate is. You need to be here. He drew him a map at how to get around Charlotte. And I think it's appropriate to think that Humpy knew how to go around Charlotte. And it wasn't happening. And Willie T was getting frustrated. And he pulled in on his last attempt for the day, and he pulled past us, pulled about three stalls down, pulls up right against the wall, steps out over the wall, and I haven't seen him since. And so Humpy calls me, and he says, I've sent your boy back to San Jose or to California. And, so I'm feeling, now what? And he said, don't worry. He says, I'll figure out something. He says, but you're going to hear your name on the news tonight. He said, just relax. And so I think it was Harold Johnson gets on the news, and he's talking about Willie T. Ribbs is no longer going to be involved in this car. Harold Johnson didn't get that out of his mouth, and the phone rings, and it's Dale. And Dale and I had done some work together. We weren't friends or anything, but associates. I'd helped him figure out some things about we were breaking springs when we were doing some welding, and I think we figured out what that was. So he had my phone number. He says, can I drive that car? And I said, well, it's not my car right now. This is kind of one of them deals. He says, do you care if I call Humpy? I said, no. A minute later, Harold Johnson's still talking about it on the TV. Humpy called me. He says, you care if he drives your car? I said, Humpy says, I said, you think he can keep it off the wall? I don't remember saying that, but we made the agreement. And so in the book I write about, we lived 55 miles apart. Dale was there in 45 minutes.
That night?
That night, right then. Right then. He just came down. He says, we got to fit that seat. I'll be right down. And I write about that in the book. The story is called My Introduction to Ironhead. And that's the story that Junior was referring to. And then I write about our race at Charlotte. Boy, I thought I was in big time. Humpy.
Well, let me ask you this first. When he came down and made the 55-mile trip in 45 minutes, you said that you spent 4 or 5 hours cutting the floor pan out and adjusting the seat. And he's not Dale Earnhardt yet. He's still up and coming. He doesn't have that cachet yet. He doesn't have that power yet.
Same line of thinking I had.
So why did you do it?
Well, I'd been around ladies long enough to know if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And if a driver doesn't think you've given him everything, you ain't going to get everything. This is a chance. This is as much a chance for me as it was for Dale.
Really?
So I had as good a car as I'd ever had anything to do with. And he was not a foreign entity to me. I'd seen him run on the short tracks, and I'd also seen what he did to a couple cars in Atlanta that made me somewhat
Yeah.
hesitant, but
Yeah.
I was in, okay, and there's no sense being halfway in. So I said, listen, I told him, I'll do what you want. And I thought we were going to cut some holes in the existing seat brackets and move it forward because Buddy Baker was the last driver. We ended up moving it back, and we moved it down, and he'd get in. He'd say, no, I'd like it a little bit longer, and I just did what he wanted. We both were crawling in. He was helping me. He wasn't just telling me to do it. He was helping me. And when we were done, we ended up cutting the floor pan and moving that whole frame thing down about 1.25 inches. And, you know, I've got the same look on my face now that you're seeing. And he said, you don't understand this. And I told him the same thing. I said, no, I told you I'd do what you wanted. I'm happy to do that. Don't have to understand all of it. I just want to go fast. He says, well, get in the car. So I crawl in. That was when I could. Sit in the car. And we're in the shop, and the wall's about 6 or 8 feet in front of the car. And he says, when you turn into turn 1 at Charlotte and go over that little hump, he said, where's that car in front of you? I said, I just pointed to the wall in front of me. He says, it's right there. And he kind of shrugged his shoulder. He says, where's the car in front of him? And I just looked at him, and he says, no. When you go into the turn, the car's turned up. The car that's in front of him is up here in the upper corner of the A-post. He knew, and he wanted that. So I thought he wanted to get back so you could feel when the car got loose, and I think that was an advantage. And that's what I was thinking, and weight low. So I wasn't looking at it from a visual standpoint. I was looking at it from a dynamic standpoint. So I was happy to do it. I hated that I had to do it at 2 a.m.
Was there ever a point, though, where you said, look here, you punk kid?
No, I guess I don't know why, but no, I never had that.
Wow.
The things that he was asking, I thought I understood, and they were things that I would have done. I just maybe wasn't so enthused about doing it right there.
Yeah, okay.
But
Well, now,
I was very impressed with the same thing. This is a brand new guy. He's telling me to cut up my brand new car, but he knew.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew.
yeah.
He knew, and he never scratched my car either.
Now, you talked about the Harold Johnson news report. Was that 6 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news?
6,
Okay, all right. So what time did he get there?
7:30 or 8 o'clock.
7:30, 8 o'clock, okay. Well,
It was really quick.
Yeah,
It was really
yeah.
quick.
the part of the story that we hadn't talked about, though, is that he had somebody with him, a little kid.
A little 4-year-old boy, yeah.
Who was it?
It was Junior, Dale Jr. I mean,
Wow. And he stayed there the whole time with his daddy, and you.
they came in an old pickup truck, nicely painted. He was parked outside the shop, within 15 feet of where we were, but Dale rolled the window down, went over to that side of the car, made sure he was situated, I guess, rolled the window about halfway down, and never spoke to him. He just says, we'll be right back, or something to that effect. And I'd watch. We'd both take a turn, take times to look out the window.
So he stayed in the truck.
The whole time with his head sticking out the top half of that window. And he must have had a cold because there's snot running down the window
Wow.
glass. And
Now,
never made a peep.